Hello and welcome to Women Changing the World podcast. I'm your host, Olivia D'Souza. In this episode, I am talking with Karen Dennett. Hello, Karen.
Hi.
I have been looking forward to talking to you. I'll introduce you. Karen Dennett is a founder, educator, facilitator, author, and change maker. She has cultivated a growing tribe of inspiring experts and professionals to create meaningful learning opportunities that engage, broaden horizons, and create possibilities mindsets. Karen believes that often teaching prepares young people to pass standardised assessments, but it can sometimes diminish self-worth to a point where young people don't see any value in themselves anymore. So Karen has created a number of programs to inspire our young people and encourage them to see possibilities and to believe in themselves.
Yes.
So, wonderful. How about we start with you're one of the authors in this amazing book. Can you tell me the story that you share in the book?
Yeah, of course. So the theme of the chapter that I've written starts with the question, if you could go back and speak to your 16-year-old self, what would you say? And then I explain my story and a little bit about when I was 16 and, how my experiences shaped my own self-belief at that age, and how, as a teacher later on in life, the impact of experiences beyond just the academic, and how the real importance of building young people for the future and helping them to have that sort of confidence and awareness of the value that they have, and how that had an impact on their ability to engage, to feel confident about the future, and to move forward. And then, just wrap it up in terms of what advice I would give myself. And then end the book with, and then obviously end the chapter with how, this hasn't happened alone, and or what's been needed from industry and those outside of education to come together and collaborate to make that difference together.
Wow. What were you seeing in schools that made you feel like there was a need and go out and create these programs?
I actually worked, so I'm a marketing graduate originally, and I worked for years in marketing communications, and then I decided I wanted more accountability and decided to become a teacher when I was 30 with two young children. And I got into teaching. I trained to be a business and enterprise teacher. What I found as a teacher when I went back into a school was the fact that schools become like a little bit of a bubble. And I guess most workplaces do, don't they? You get lost in your workplace, and you get so wrapped up in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis that you kind of forget the world outside and everything else that is going on outside. So what I noticed was that there was a lot of training for assessment. So teachers are brilliant. I mean, teachers work really hard. And it's really important that, when a lot of people talk about improving education, it can be quite, for teachers who are already working hard and they're overworked and they're pressured, there's a lot of work that goes into teaching and making sure that they're planning, assessing, behavior managing, supporting, report writing, planning, again, evaluating what they're doing and constantly evolving. So there is a lot of work that goes into it. But unfortunately, what I found, I mean, not unfortunately, so teachers are doing an amazing job. And the challenge that they have is preparing young people for the future when they're already overworked. So what I found was that teachers and schools tend to train for assessment. So it's about preparing young people for standardised assessments. We're constantly working as teachers to make sure that we're working through the curriculum, making sure that students are achieving grades, making sure that they are completing their, and this is all within a busy curriculum timetable. So there's lots of other things going on. So with regards to preparing people for the future, what I found was a lot of focus is actually on the grades for those assessments. What that usually means is that young people then don't necessarily go out into the world with the necessary skills they need that employers require and that industry requires. But they also don't necessarily know what skills they possess, because a lot of school assessments are based on limited skill sets, really, to be fair. I mean, you look at evaluation and analysis and those sort of academic skills, knowledge, understanding. But, a lot of the empathy, emotional intelligence, the ability to sort of really think critically about a problem solving, decision making, understanding, your own mindset and being able to work out what your mindset is and how that influences you and that self-awareness. So a lot of those really important life skills and understanding doesn't get embedded into the curriculum because it's very much focused on assessment. So that was where I saw that young people then started to flounder, because if that form of assessment and that style didn't actually suit them, then what actually happened was that they just felt that they weren't good enough because they were comparing in school. Everything is about the grades. It's about how well you're doing with your work. And, I've actually seen students in my tutor group and students that I've taught go downhill, and they just lose all confidence in themselves and they feel that they're just not good enough. And there's a big pool of young people that really don't have any direction because they haven't got that awareness of the opportunities that exist for them.
Does that mean that there are certain things that we should educate that they need to learn about that doesn't require A, B, C, D ranking? Is that, well, we don't teach something if you can't rank it? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, there's a lot of everything it pretty much is graded. You need to provide evidence. So even in vocational education, there's a lot of evidence gathering to demonstrate that, you've got a certain level of understanding to actually demonstrate that you can show those skills in practice, or you can actually do something. And it's all very much evidence based and tick the box activities. So, you're constantly having to demonstrate that those skills have been achieved in a particular way. And that process of having to demonstrate evidence all the time kind of, in my opinion anyway, kind of like is like a bit of a straitjacket on learning, because they don't get that freedom to really explore and understand and demonstrate through, they don't have that opportunity to fail, and failure is seen as like a negative thing.
Yes.
And it's not a good thing to fail, to get low grades or to do, very badly. But another thing with grades as well is that you might have one student, for example, who works really hard and puts everything into getting a D. And they've done really, they've really put a lot of energy into it. And then you've got another student who puts maybe the same, maybe possibly even less effort to get an A. And yet the person that gets a D, because it's on a comparison scale, is seen as not doing as well, or is not working as hard as the person with an A. And that's an automatic comparison. It doesn't reflect their hard work. It doesn't reflect their effort. It doesn't reflect, the thinking that went into it. It just reflects their ability to articulate that in a particular way for an assessment.
It makes it challenging to teach that failure is a step on the path to success, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Every failure is seen as simply a failure, like a bad mark.
Yeah, definitely. And there just needs to be more focus, in my opinion, on the giving students and young people the opportunity to interact and engage with industry, to see the opportunities, and also to have those opportunities to learn new skills in an engaging and exciting way, to make them feel that they actually can do something and that they are good at stuff and that they can actually achieve, and that there is a future for them outside of school.
So, can you tell me a bit about what you're doing about this? You've identified a problem and you've created some programs. Tell me.
So, I'll tell you about our Future Female Leaders program. Is actually a partnership with Claire Sieber, who is a leadership expert, consultant, trainer, and runs her own podcast. And Claire Sieber and I have worked together to create the Future Female Leaders program, which has run this year in its pilot program. And we have our graduation dinner coming up shortly. And the program has seen 7 girls participate in a pre-career professional development leadership program where they've learned from experts, they've built skills, they've been part of coaching circles, they've attended networking events, and they have also received professional mentoring. And part of demonstrating their skills has been to undertake a sustainable social enterprise project that they have been able to, something they can take beyond the program. And it's something that they have created that links to a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, but it's something that links to their own passions and what lights them up as well. So they're all presenting next week, and they've had some coaching from a TEDx speaker coach. So to help them with their presentations next week, which is the Hilton, the local Parmelia Hilton in Perth. So we're very excited about that. The other programs that we run are supporting trainers to link with industry and understand how what they're teaching in vocational education, how that's applied by real people in real workplaces. And we do that through interviews and case studies and resources, and asking all the questions about, the skills, the trends, the challenges, and actually giving teachers an opportunity to apply that and then take those resources into the classroom. And we do that. We've interviewed lots of Osmanpreneurs for that as well. Lots of women sharing their businesses and what they're doing. And the final project, which we're aiming to launch next year, is called Be the Difference. Be the Difference enables young people with their teachers to inquire and to explore real life challenges, to think critically about those challenges and how they impact on their world, and then to articulate that through a TEDx type talk, their perspective of what it means to be the difference.
So exciting. I'd imagine this would be a real confidence boost, that people go in there and do like real life stuff, career type, or things that change the world projects, and see it happen in the real world. What happens to their confidence?
Yeah, well, we did the pilot program of the Be the Difference program in schools at the end of last year in 2020. And we worked with 15 schools around Australia. And it was initially run with girls. And the testimonials that came back from the teachers was that the girls' confidence increased massively through the program. They were engaged, they were really enjoying the discussions, and just sort of listening to experts like Susan Pearce talking about imposter syndrome. And they were able to understand, oh, that's what I've been feeling. And I never knew that there was an actual term called imposter syndrome, but I feel that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that they're not alone, that was a huge confidence boost. And hearing about leadership and understanding that actually, that they can be vulnerable. If they put themselves out there as leadership role models, then they become the role models for the future generations as well. And that was a really nice confidence boost for them, because it kind of made them feel that they almost had, it was for them to make those changes, and they had that power to do that. So that was great. And the teachers said that they felt it was such a privilege and an honor to be a part of such meaningful discussion. So yeah, so it was really, really well received. And we've added a boys program, and to cover things like mindset, purpose and direction, conflict resolution. And we've also added a tutorial for teachers around how to actually use the GROW model of coaching to create coaching questions to help them to, and as teachers, we don't get training in coaching and mentoring. We only get training in how to teach, and teaching and coaching are two different things. So it's about empowering teachers as well to have that confidence to be able to lead those meaningful conversations.
That's so important. Like, I think teaching is right up there as one of the number one important jobs, and I've always felt that, but I think after COVID and lockdown and remote learning, I think a lot more people hopefully really, really appreciate that. And
Yeah.
it's a foundational, they are shaping our future, and it's
Yeah.
so important. So you go into schools, is it a particular year levels?
Yeah, so we focus on years 9 to 12. So the Future Female Leaders program is open for girls aged 16 to 18. And we also work with year 9s for the Be the Difference program. because year 9 is a typical age where young people actually start to disengage from school and from learning. And it's also a time when a lot of those additional problems start to impact them, like the thought of financial security, the concept of where they're heading and their purpose and direction, because everyone's asking them, what do you want to do when you leave school? And they have no idea. Things like diversity and inclusion, managing conflict with friends. We also, so the female lead kindly allowed us to share their resources around disrupting the feed and the research program that they undertook in terms of identifying what you're actually allowing social media to show you through the algorithm. And if you actually stop looking at negative images and allowing those negative influences, and you choose more positive role models on Instagram and on Facebook and Snapchat and TikTok, you'll get more of the same, and it will improve your mood. So things like that. So we shared lots of that. And yes, so that age group is great for that. And we're also looking at potentially working with universities for that as well. So with the Be the Difference program to help, first year university students, to focus on those areas of confidence as well.
So when did you start this?
So Engage in Education was started in 2016, at the end of 2016, as a part-time events business when I was still teaching. It started off with a student business conference and the Inspiring Men and Inspiring Women in Business events in the city. And it's just grown to an online, these 3 programs which we're working on there.
So what challenges have you had along the way?
Well, let me see. I think probably there's lots of challenges. Personally, a big challenge for me has been getting the work-life balance, because being at home and working and also trying to balance it with like looking after 3 children in a FIFO household has been really hard, because you kind of end up having to do everything yourself for quite long periods of time, and trying to manage all the clubs, all the housework, all of the keeping the children entertained, giving them the time and attention they need, and also trying to balance what's happening in primary school, secondary school, as well as work. I find that I can't keep the time to like working hours. So you just have to kind of accept that, you might be getting your laptop out at 10 o'clock at night to do some stuff for an hour because, you were called off because you had to pick up your little one from school and they were sick, or another crisis happened, or, you run into school to drop off water bottles on the way to meetings. And, you just have to accept that you can't do as much networking as you'd like to do, because you just can't, you don't, and it's not about you can't find babysitters. I don't actually want to find babysitters, because that time is so precious with your little ones, and they grow up so fast. And for me, getting that balance is important, and I haven't always got that right. Sometimes I've worked really hard, and my children have felt that I'm always on the laptop. So, and that's not always the case, because I'm doing a lot of stuff in the day, but it's just a balance and trying to fit it all in. So that's been a huge challenge for me. And it's great to know that COVID has actually really started to increase awareness of that challenge.
Yeah, I'm just sure that everyone listening would be nodding along and absolutely relating to that difficulty. I mean, if you're running your own show, there's no sick leave. It doesn't happen until you until you get back to it.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. That's probably the biggest challenge. Yeah.
What about COVID? How did that affect your delivery of what you do, or is it online anyway?
Do you
Or
know what? COVID actually was almost like it wasn't quite the catalyst, but it really made me change the whole way that I deliver in a positive way. So just shortly before COVID actually had an impact, I'd already decided that, from feedback from teachers, so I was running teacher professional development workshops, and a lot of the feedback was that they really loved the workshops. They found them really engaging and they were really helpful and useful, but trying to get out of the classroom with everything else that they had to do. So they had to get cover teachers, they had to pay for transport, they needed to cover that lesson, and they were away for the day, and then they had to then make up for that day out. It just became quite a hassle for them, and even though they enjoyed it, it was actually quite difficult. So I was already looking at an online solution for it already, and then obviously COVID, it was just everything had been impacted, and I was already well on the way to creating industry engaged and working with a mentor to create the online delivery. And just at that time, had reached out to a large RTO, a registered training organisation, who were just at that exact time looking to add currency online. So we partnered up, and I was able to support them. We were able to work together on delivering it. So yes, that was great. It hasn't. I mean, I don't think that anyone would have wanted COVID. So many people have died, and it's been really tragic, the impact that it's had on lots of people for mental health. I'm just pleased the fact that it has brought people online has made it more acceptable to and more welcome. People want those online resources, and they're more aware of them, they're more able to use them, they've got more skills to adapt to using them. So it's just sort of more of an accepted standard of delivery now, so that just helps.
And what feeling do you get when you know that you're making a difference?
A lot of the time I feel like really proud, and I know both Claire and I have said next week, I don't think we're going to be able to keep a dry eye. It's when we hear those girls speaking. We had our last coaching session with them yesterday and the day before, our last couple of sessions with them, and just seeing the impact that the program has had on them individually and as young women, and the confidence that they've grown, and the skills that they've developed, and how much it's actually impacted their future and their lives, and how much they've taken on board, and how they now have these incredible projects that they want to continue with, and they want to create their own small not-for-profit organizations, and they want to develop them. And when we see that, and when we hear from them next week with all the atmosphere and the emotion that's happening on the night, I know I'll probably have a lump in my throat, and it'll make me cry a little bit. So because it's just knowing that an idea that you've had, or something that I haven't delivered it myself. I've brought people in together to do it. It's through industry professionals working with me that I've been able to do this. So I couldn't have done this alone, but knowing that I've orchestrated that and had the ideas and managed to make these things happen, and collaborated with people to ensure that they happen, that just kind of makes me feel that I'm so pleased that I did that, because look what's happened. Yeah, and it makes you feel really happy.
I think that would just be mind-blowing, to think that you had an inspired idea and that you went for it and made it real, and then to see the ripple effect in ways that you wouldn't have even been able to imagine, and to see these projects which hopefully continue and then touch other lives. It's incredible.
I'll definitely be on there.
All right, well, we're out of time, so we better wrap it up. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you really wanted to say before we finish?
I just want to extend a huge thank you to everyone, all the professionals, the organisations and businesses and individuals who have shared their expertise, have contributed their time and energy and resources to help the programs and to be involved, because there's absolutely no way that any of this could have happened if people weren't willing to share and didn't share that passion for guiding the next generation. And it's just a massive thank you to everyone and all of you that have enabled that to happen.
And how can people connect with you?
So probably the best way to connect is through LinkedIn. So if you search up Karen Dennett, but my name is listed as Karen D, and you'll see me on there, and that's a platform that I use regularly. So, send me a message, reach out to me. You can also email me, Karen@engagingeducation.com.au.
Okay, and perhaps you can email that to me so I make sure it ends up in the show
Yes,
notes as well. And we will also have a link to where to get the Women Changing the World book. So
yes.
thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.